Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Tropin and I'm friend open source software developer, author of Guix Home and RD projects. On this stream series we talk about development tools, practices, share part of my usual workday and travels towards a sustainable ethical business. We have already a lot of previous streams with different topics, but I would like to recap only a few of them. And we had streams about Nginx as a project, as a free and open source software project, which is quite profitable for its author and participants, at least some of the participants. We had an overview of guix system service for Nginx and how it works, and its cons and pros, and what could be done better. And also we had a lot of streams on tests topic, tests in guile scheme, and today we will combine those three topics, actually mostly those two topics in our today's streams, and we will try to implement a serialization from S expressions defined in guile scheme to Nginx configuration. The approach will be different from what is used in guix system service provided in primary guix repository. But I will explain why we do it, and also we will try to do it in test-driven development approach. So we will be writing tests first, and after that write an implementation for it. Maybe we won't even finish an implementation today, but at least we will have tests that already defines how it should work. So it will be much easier to start the development of the serialization and be sure that it works as we expected. Hello, Haider. Nice to see you here, and nice to see everyone here. I'm very glad when you join and type something in the chat, ask questions, say hello, or something else. It's very pleasant feeling. And also sometimes it's a little sad when nobody writes in the chat, even if they're watching, and you sit like in front of the computer and it feels like nobody listening to you. But I know that many of you can join so earlier and watch it in the recording, and I still appreciate all the messages you write on my email and Mastodon. Thank you very much. And let's get back to our outline and talk about something not tightly related to today's topic, but also interesting and important, especially for the users. Why we do a lot of work related to test, receiver, and some other stuff. On RD project, Consensus, also known as Ardon on IRC, works on improvement of closure feature. He also works on home services and features for matrix, like a matrix client for emacs, home service for some other tooling required to setting up matrix and encryption for it, and so on. So I hope it will land on RDE soon, and every guix user and every RDE user will be able to get a taste of the work done by Consensus and have matrix setup managed by his guix or RD installation. Also, there's some work in common Lisp land, feature Lisp introduced recently, and of course home service for it. And also Nix feature is in progress and underlying home services as well. So it can be used by both plain guix users, mostly guix home users, and RD users too. And also there are much more as work happens. So take a look at log, at git log of the RD repository, or take a look at changelog. Changelog is not yet established completely, but I try to add some important notes to it, and we'll see how it goes. I hope we will be able to maintain it in a useful state and to provide some value for people who need a brief understanding of what happened between releases and what's happening in the development right now. Okay, let's go to today's topic and let's talk about Nginx a little. We already covered, but I will recap. I will make a few statements about Nginx which can help to understand why this project is important. It's hard to describe the project in one statement, so I will try to enumerate features it provides and the applications for this project, and we'll give some overall information about it. First of all, it's a high-performant web server which is able to serve a content like static content, to do some transformation of the HTTP packages, to terminate SSL, to do proxying like forward proxy. When you have a few different backends and you access only Nginx web server and the requests going to the backends, and of course it's a load balancer because if you have such kind of proxy, it's logical to have a few different backends if you want to scale it up. Also, it provides some other capabilities, like not only HTTP and HTTPS, serving HTTP and HTTPS protocols. It able to do some RTMP related stuff. It allows to stream video. It allows to do some transformation of the HTTP packages and almost any other packages. It's very extensible with plugins, which is basically shared libraries that get loaded by Nginx using the Nginx config and some capabilities for loading dynamic libraries. What else we have here? We can implement some logic inside the configuration and using this logic to route requests from different domains to different backends or different places. We can rewrite, redirect, and so on. And also something important that I didn't mention. Oh, of course, it can serve dynamic content as well. There are some plugins and approach to do it as well. So you can only serve not the static content, but also some dynamic content generated with some programming languages. And there are different ways which allows to use external process or even evaluate some parts of the code written in Lua or some probably some other languages as well in Nginx worker processes, but it's a little more of advanced topic. But anyway, Nginx has a lot of different applications and it's hugely widespread around the web, and probably most of the web now served by Nginx, and it's a little bit slimmer and performant than Apache web server, and it's gained a lot of popularity for the last probably 2 decades, and it's worth to know about this project. And of course, I myself use it for different projects, including my personal page and the page for RD manual and for serving some static files like ISOs for terminating SSL and so on. And of course, the end goal is to provide a good interface which will help to define the service, the system service for guix system using just a scheme code. And my end goal for now is just to make it possible to express any possible Nginx configuration with the scheme code, and also add some capabilities for terminating SSL and generating SSL certificates using certbot. But it will be a topic for a different stream. It's just an idea of what I would like to achieve as the goal of work on Nginx, because I would like to serve a blog, a text blog using Nginx. I would like to use and already use Nginx for restreaming purpose, so the video stream goes not only to YouTube but also to PeerTube, and to serve some static pages with my contacts, with information about guix mirrors, I still maintain, and of course to provide a proxy for CI guix gnorg and issues guix gnorg and just guix gnorg sites, which are not available in some countries, but my domain is not blocked in these countries, and also it's available in Yggdrasil networks, so it's a little bit more accessible. However, I think that I would like to have available guix gnorg in Yggdrasil network without my proxy, so probably I need to raise this question in in guix devil mailing list. Okay, I hope everyone have some feeling and understanding of what Nginx is. Let's talk about the structure of Nginx config. If it's still unclear, please read some articles, introductory articles about Nginx, probably on Wiki or some other resources. I'm sure there are a lot of articles that can give you understanding of it. And talking about Nginx config structure, I would like to just take a look at Nginx example configurations. And here it looks quite simple. We have key value pairs, and we have a nested contexts, and inside those contexts we inherit values from the alter context, and we can override the values inside those contexts. For example, we can define some error log here, but we can also redefine the error log inside some nested contexts. Do we have an example? Probably in this example we have it. Oops, sorry for jumping scrolling. You have a top level definition of error log value, which will be used by Nginx, but later in nested definition you can redefine this error log value with a different value, and in even more nested context, you can redefine it one more time. And if it's not redefined in nested context, the closest outer context value will be used. The structure of the configuration is also quite clear, I guess, from what we see. We have the name of the context and two curly brackets. Is it correct? Name of those brackets, and inside inside it the structure is the same, key and the value. The value can be quite complicated, like this one, and actually there are some additional cases when we have something before the curly bracket, and it can be just a list of values separated by space, but it also can be just parentheses. For example, we have if statement. Let me see if we have. Yeah, for example here, we can have some stuff inside brackets, and this stuff, not brackets, parentheses, and this stuff we also need to be able to express with our scheme code. Okay, let's just take some examples and copy them. And we'll be trying to express them with scheme code, and we'll write tests, and after that we will write an implementation for it. If you have any questions and something is unclear, don't hesitate to ask it, because I already have some background with Nginx, and I already read a few articles. I also had some practical experience configuring it on different distributions, and including non-guix distribution and guix system, and already know some answers, and they can seem obvious to me and maybe not so obvious to people who are not very familiar with Nginx, so don't hesitate to ask. Okay, we see this semicolon at the end of the statement. We see those opening and closing brackets, and also we understand the overall structure. It looks like key value, but sometimes like here the location and some arguments to the location is not actually a key value pair. We have very similar structure for i3 window manager and FOSS compositor, FOSS variant compositor, and we already have serialization implemented for them, but it's still a little different from Nginx. So that is why we will just write tests, and after that we'll be thinking how to implement serialization. Okay, we already have a namespace for Nginx serialization tests, and let's import what we have, RD tests, I guess, which has defined test. Let's evaluate it. So it's available here. And let's start from something simple. Let's call it key value. And here we will make an assert test equal, I guess, serialize. Let's open an example of Lisp test and how it done here. Let's define a function serialize config, which accepts a config and which returns an empty list, for example, like this. And we will use it here. First of all, of course, we need to name our test case, and after that we need to set an expected value and the resulting value. Expected value will be something a b semicolon, and here we serialize config, which looks like a b, like this. And now let's evaluate all the stuff, and we see that serialize config here. And let's let's launch the tests, and we see at the bottom of the screen that it fails. It fails right now because, you know, the serialize config doesn't return a string right now. It's return an empty list. Okay, that's okay. What we can do, we can set test expect to fail 1 and re-evaluate it. And now we have our tests passed, because, you know, it's expected to fail this test right now. Do we need it? Okay, let's see. Let's say we expect them to fail right now, and after we write we write a few tests, we will be removing expectation of the fail, and we'll be implementing them one by one, or just a group of items. It's not the end format that we will be using, but just an idea of how it could look. And we have sway home service, and we can take a look at how it's defined. We see that we don't use pairs here because we can have a few items in a row, like here in bin sim. So I guess it's logical to do something similar to that in Nginx configuration. And let's say it's basic config, and let's call it key value pairs. And let's write some more interesting stuff. For example, something nested. like this. Do we want it to be in a basic config? Maybe we can create one more test which will be used for some example configurations. Example configs. And here, let's copy this stuff. Let's write it here. Let's remove this stuff and this stuff. And let's call it location with nested if. And let's try to think how it will look in our scheme DSL. I would say it could look like this: error page equal other, and here recursive error pages on, and here we will have something more complicated, something like this. So it looks like we defined some example of our scheme DSL for Nginx config and in what it should be translated. Probably it should be new line here and here. Let's eval all the stuff and we see four asserts being evaluated and why 4? 1, 2, 3. I see only 3 asserts. Very interesting. Do I miss something? At the same time as writing Nginx config, we will be also testing our tooling for tests and figuring out some problems in it. And here I definitely see that there is only 3 test equals. Test equal. And for some reason it says that there are 4 expected to fail items. Let's see. Let's wrap it in a test group, and let's call it example config. Basic config, and let's reevaluate the stuff. We have two test groups here, and one expected to fail sync somewhere else. Probably something stuck in a REPL state, and I don't know yet how to unload and completely reload the namespace. So probably I will need to restart REPL, but let's see what we have. Maybe we have some function related to model. I would like to unload model or to do something similar to it. As we saw earlier, reload model usually doesn't reload. Doesn't remove stuff. Oops. From state REPL. Yep. What we can do here. Let's call get model tests and get model tests, and let's see. Oops. Okay, we have three tests called key value, example config, and basic config. And as you can see, we removed key value test recently, but it's still in our REPL state. And I would like to find a way to completely reload the model, but I don't know yet how to do it, but let's try to hack it somehow. Define model, use models. Do we have something like model remove? Let's see. Guile, some arbitrary file, model remove. Okay, we have model remove. And we have model clear. Okay, let's try to use model clear. It's not defined in the documentation, but I can clearly see it in the Guile source code, so let's call it. And we have unspecified value returned, and let's see. Now we don't have any test models. And now we can actually run model tests and see that the 0 asserts happened here. But if we evaluate the namespace one more time, and run tests again, we get 3 failed asserts. Very nice, very nice. Model clear works as I expect, and it does all necessary cleanup. Cool. Whoops. Let's copy the whole example. Or maybe not. I don't know. Probably nothing important inside this example. This one looks interesting, because it has quite unusual things like parentheses inside regular expression. This is why I would like to pick it. Probably we can use this one instead of this one. But let's keep both for now. Of course, we can get some errors for such a list. It maybe even doesn't evaluate, but we will be fixing it later. File like this, and here in nested context we'll do some Let's do some stuff. Do we need cases when if has an empty body? Okay, let's keep it this way. Does it make sense? Does it make any sense to do such a definition? Not sure. Okay, we wrote a few basic tests, and now let's try some dummy implementation of serialize config. Let's remove expectation of the fail here and here. And let's update this test to something more complicated. Nested context A, B, C, D, like this. And here we will have something like this. Looks good. Looks good. Let's evaluate. And we have two failed tests right now. And let's try to implement them. The implementation will be non-perfect. We will just hard code some cases here. If length of config more than less than 2, then return a b \n cd \n. Otherwise, return a b cd \n. And of course, this implementation should make one test to pass, but it doesn't. Oh, of course, it should be vice versa. Now we see that one test passes and one still fails. And For some reason, I can't rerun previous tests. I don't know why. It fails for some reason, and let's take a look what we have what we have here. Probably I broke something last time. It will be a different model, but let's use it. Prev runner. Okay, we have quite good report. For some reason we have a lot of duplicates here. Okay, it is because we don't reset a test runner. Okay, now it works correctly. So let's take a look what can be wrong with our code here. We run tests, do very simple stuff. It call rerun tests and returns a test runner summary. Looks valid to me. Let's try to call it. Rerun tests, and it worked. Call it one more time, it still works. And let's stretch a little. Okay, it seems that this stuff works. Now let's go to this model and let's try to call. Oh, and rerun test now works too. Okay, I understood the problem. Probably. I just didn't have some necessary stuff evaluated in my REPL. This is related to the approach we use for loading our scheme code. So probably it should work. And Rerun test works, but rerun failed test doesn't work now. Let's try. I know that rerun failed test uses this lambda's filter function. Let's just copy it and pass it here. Calling manually rerun tests works for me, but maybe I just didn't evaluate the stuff here. Let's try to call it one more time. No, it still fails. Rerun failed tests. Set previous runner, rerun tests. Previous runner, filter fn, tests runner summary of previous runner. Everything looks very good to me. Looks correct. Oh, I probably know what can cause this problem. Where we have a sock ref defined. It's probably a part of Surfy1. Which not exported here. Use models Surfy1. And let's call it. No. Still fails. Procedure and model guile. So maybe I'm wrong and it's not a part of Surfy1. Okay, then I'm confused. Lambda looks correct. It even works if I copy it to the different namespace. Maybe something wrong with test summary. No, it looks also good. Okay. What about this change? I commented print. However, it should not affect it. Otherwise, rerun failed test and just rerun test didn't work. Both didn't work. I'm really confused. Okay, let's close the REPL and let's do geyser debug, show debug. Okay, no, not debug, we need something else. Geyser REPL. How's this option called? Which shows the stuff which coming to the geyser messages. We have it? No, we don't. Okay, geyser log one more time. Verbose p, verbose debug. It's used. Oh, we have geyser log after scroll buffer p, which is nil by default, but last time I was looking for such option. Very cool. Verbose debug log very verbose informational messages, log purely informational messages. Okay, let's enable geyser log verbose. And geyser log after scroll buffer to true. And now let's geyser connect. And let's take a look at geyser messages. Okay, it didn't appear. Geyser log. Okay, now we have it. Let's see what happens here. We call the stuff which looks okay. Filter fn unbound variable. Oh, I see what's happening here. Our last refactoring introduced an ability to use s expression instead of strings, but it doesn't work in this case. Now it works. Okay, what happened here is that this stuff was removed because, you know, we written as expressions in emacs Lisp, and emacs doesn't have this type of keywords that we have in guile scheme, and that is why it sent something like this to the REPL, which was a mistake, of course. Okay, probably we need to write some tests for our test tooling. Okay, very good. Let's fix the test. And now we see that we have a failing entity here, but I would like to get the report for this. For this failing test, and I can do it this way. I can take rerun tests and I will get this stuff here, which is nice. Let's do it this way. But I really would like to bind it to some key binding, so I can easily call it and easily find a place where the error happens, and so on. So let's see what we have. We open our RD tests EL. I have to rename it. It's already Gither tests. And probably the directory as well. Let's call it just Gither. Okay, and here we need to update our provide. We call geyser eval send, but let's see how this stuff works. We have geyser eval send, and here we have a function called geyser eval definition, and we know that geyser eval definition calls something that will present a result somehow, and it calls geyser eval region, which contains point end of the definition, and go and row. Okay, let's see that geyser eval region, how it looks. Eval the current region in geyser REPL with prefix goes to the REPL buffer afterwards. The evaluation is performed asynchronously. Okay, it calls geyser debug send region. Geyser debug send region, which accepts a few parameters. Let's see what we have here. Evaluate or compile. Evaluate or compile, and probably it has this function. Which actually creates a buffer with the result. Probably we want this buffer as well. Message if 0p, otherwise program geyser debug display retort, and what arguments it accepts? str. scstr is probably something related. Related to what was evaluated. Some tests. I guess it's okay to do it. Red and optional res. Red. It's something that it will output, and res, which is, let's see, wait, used setQ image. Insert res. I don't know what is res. Okay, let's jump back and see what we have here. Unless no message. Geyser val retort. Res. Okay, let's try it. Let's just call the same stuff here, and we'll adjust it accordingly later. Let's try it out. What we have. Okay, nothing happened. Let's reval buffer to be sure. Message red. Oh. Eval buffer. Why nothing happens? Messages. Invalid face reference 16 times true. Okay, it's not a big deal, but let's add it to do. Okay, we got it, and now let's use. Okay, looks good. It almost works. Let's remove this one. Let's reval it. Cool. We can call it test summary. Here instead of red, I would like to but okay. We executed model tests and we executed failed tests, and we see that our problem is here and expected expression is this, but we provided this one. Let's just do something like this and we run tests, and now it doesn't fail, it passes all the tests. Very cool. The only problem here is the logic when this get displayed. Let's display it every time test get executed somehow. Okay, for now I'm fine that it displayed every time we do anything. But later, maybe we will adjust this logic to make it a little bit flexible. For example, we can generate this buffer, but not pop it up when something happens. When, for example, test passes, we just don't show it. But for now, it will be good to have it every time to see if something goes wrong. It's interesting that it shows as a source test runners, because probably the function which the place where test runner is created is this. Okay, very good so far. Do we want to do some real programming and actually implement this serializer, or we will keep it for the next time? I think we will keep it for the next time, because I'm already feel a little bit tired. But despite the fact that we didn't achieve all the points for today, we didn't discuss serialization approach in much details. We still did a lot of stuff. Actually, not that a lot, but we made a good addition. First of all, we fixed our previous refactoring and the results of previous refactoring, and added a buffer with the report, with the test report. So it's a little bit more informative right now. Also, we created tests and we prototyped how it can look in our scheme DSL. We just tried to imagine how our DSL should look like. But let's see what it shows. Oh, actually it looks quite good. It looks quite good. This are correct symbols, and they get parsed almost correctly. Unexpected space here. Sorry. Okay, what we can do? We can wrap it in construction like this. I killed the REPL trying to evaluate this symbol. This is the first approach, how we can define such complicated symbols. The second approach is just use something like this. It just literally inserts the value here. Another interesting thing that I would like to do is to define define guix usage. Example of guix. We want a nested context. Like A, B. And here we have nothing. And this nothing. How it calls unindented? Like this, and let's look how it should look like. Serialize config. First of all, we have such structure A, and here we have nothing. And here we have unindented. Like this. And for now we also expect it to fail. It's a good case that can make it more convenient to use G expressions inside our configuration, because when it's wrapped in brackets it gets indented, but when it doesn't, it won't be indented, and it looks correct to me, and I hope it's relatively easy to implement such serialization and to cover this case. how we call it? We call it test equal indentation of guix. And let's run all the test models. Okay, I probably killed the REPL. Geyser connect. Okay. Nope. Test runners. Nope. Cool. Cool. Very nice. Oh, very nice. I quite like what we did here. We wrote a few tests. We fixed our tooling for tests. We made it possible to display a report in the buffer. And here we are good boys. I guess we can make some conclusion for today's stream. And continue to work on the Nginx configuration later, and also on our test tooling. And the idea that I would like to highlight from today's stream that tests can serve a multiple purpose. For example, here right now I use it as a reasoning tool. I just try to understand and to guess how it could look like, how our DSL should look like. And here I prototype examples of our DSL and what we expect as the end result from them. Of course, in most cases it's not that it works not the way I did here. It requires some work on the other end, like to make some very small prototype of the source code, make some examples, and look how those examples match with those prototype and so on. Maybe sometimes you want to upfront design DSL, but here we did a good test-driven development example. We just imagining how our DSL should look like, what the result of the serialization should be, and after that, after we wrote a few examples, we can go and implement the actual serialization function. But also the tests here have another purpose, and the another purpose is to provide some examples, some usage examples. Here it's not very clear because of additional wrappers here, but maybe I will make some macros to make it easier to write such tests and to make it easier to see the example here. But even in this form, it's quite clear that we expect that the first thing will be indented, the second one won't be indented, and how to achieve it using our DSL here. And the same for example configurations. We have example configuration, and here we have the way how we can achieve it. Maybe it will be done this way or this way, we'll see. But at least we have some examples, and maybe during implementation we will update those examples to match our serialization approach, to match our maybe changed DSL. But still we have multi-purpose tests. First one is to experiment and to understand, to reason about our new DSL. The second one is documentation of the source code and providing examples of the usage of some functions. The third one is preventing the regressions. When we do some refactoring or updates, we will be sure that we didn't broke anything, at least too radically, because we have some tests which will be evaluated on the CI or in our REPL and will show us if we break something. Okay, that's it for today. I'm glad you joined and I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the